Welcome to the Football 360 show. I'm the lone host today, Matt Bierman. JP Rock is out tonight, and we're doing things a little different today. We've got a couple guests with us in the studio. We have Graham Faust, who is at MICDS, and Brett Ottensmeyer is a quarterback at Parkway West High School. So welcome, guys.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
we're going to do the format's going to be a little bit different today. We are going to just talk through the recruiting process, kind of talk to these guys about their season and get a feel for, how everything's going for them. So I think it should be kind of an interesting change of pace. We missed JP. He is not here. He's definitely better at all the intros and all that stuff. So we'll do the best we can. But so welcome, guys. We're excited to have you here. I think the thought process behind tonight is just going to have you guys talk really about the recruiting process, and it's no better way to educate people than talk to guys that are living it, right? So I've been doing this for 25 years, helping guys go to college and live their dream of playing college football. And you guys are both guys that are well on your way to doing that. So I think it's a pretty interesting conversation to have with people that you guys have pretty similar pathways that you're on. Mm-hmm. So this should be pretty educational, I think, for you guys, as well as people listening and getting to understand the process. So first, going to introduce you guys again. So Graham Faust, so you're a receiver and safety at MICDS in St. Louis, Missouri, class of 2026. Just to give you a little rundown on his stats for the year. So he's a really solid athlete. He's a guy that's got really good range on the field. So playing both positions. I'm old. I got to put my glasses on. So Graham, as far as receiving, he's got 33 receptions, a little over 350 yards, over 10 and a half yards a reception, 5 TDs, rushing attempts 7, and then for a little over 50 yards. Return yardage, 218 returns for 261 yards, 14 and a half yard average. And then on defense, 21 tackles, 14 assists, 35 total, 3 interceptions. All in 8 games.
Yeah.
And then probably not played full games, right?
Mm-hmm. Missed 1 and 2.
And then you guys have been beating people, so then that limits reps and things like that. So that's a really good start to your year, and you guys are still alive in the playoffs.
Ready to go.
And you guys are kind of just getting heated up as being a favorite to make it through, win your district, and have a run. So Brett Ottensmeyer, quarterback, Parkway West, St. Louis, Missouri, class of 2026. He played a pretty good offense for a pretty quarterback-friendly offense. 224 completions on 338 attempts, which is 66% completion, 2,484 yards, 22 TDs, 12 interceptions. So, and as I was talking about earlier today, you look at 12 interceptions on 338 attempts, that's a pretty small number, right? You start looking at we always tell our quarterbacks half the interceptions you're going to throw in high school are your fault. The other half are probably somebody running the wrong route or tipping a ball or whatever it might be. So you guys are both off to a really good. You did what you were supposed to do your junior year. So as for where you are in the recruiting process, you guys are kind of sitting in a unique spot. So Graham, you played as a freshman, right?
Yes, I did.
So you got a lot of reps as a freshman and sophomore at MICDS.
Yeah.
So coming in, you had pretty good film heading into this past summer, right?
Yeah, I've had pretty good film all years.
So so what are your guys' size? What's your current size?
I'm currently 6'2", 180, 185, bouncing between there, but I'm gonna be around like 190 in the off season.
Yeah, right. And so what are you at?
I'm about 6'4", 185.
Okay. When did you guys get your major growth spurt, like kind of to where you are today? When did it start?
I would say after start of the last off season.
So what were you going in? What did you play as a freshman? What was your size?
Freshman, I was like 6'1.5", maybe like 165, 170.
So what did you guys get your growth spurt height wise? Because you're still physically, you're still gaining weight, which tells you the reason I'm asking this question is there's kind of a link to how that goes with you guys. So what were you so you're 6'1", When did you get this? When did you hit that, cross that magic line of 6 foot?
That was at the end of sophomore year.
Okay. All right. And then you've kind of sprouted up, you were probably about 6 foot as a 6'1"
Yeah.
as a freshman. And
Yeah,
then
about 6 foot.
so you guys are probably nearing the end of that cycle of growth spurt. So now that weight is starting to, that's why you
Back
go from
on.
160 to 180, right? And
Mhm.
so it's really hard for a lot of kids to gain weight. And I think we've had conversations with both of you guys about gaining weight. And colleges really don't start to take you serious until, one, you cross the height thing. They want the certain heights. So once you cross 6 foot, you're pretty good. And when you start cross 6'1", you're even better. But then they start to, well, he's a little light, right? I know for specific, you had some schools this offseason that
Yep.
said,
It's the weight.
yeah, weight. They didn't like your weight. I think same thing. Like people just say, because they want ready-made products. And
Yep.
part of that is you guys are being recruited in an era that has changed greatly. And it is now the transfer portal era. People can recruit immediately. They can get guys. They can find guys that have 2 years college experience, and they don't need to look at guys that have to gain weight, right?
Mhm.
We know you're going to gain weight. Like if you just look at how males mature, and if the kid's in a weightlifting program, I mean, it's very rare that a person does not eventually gain the weight they need. Sometimes they don't, but the vast majority do. But a lot of college coaches do not want to wait on the chance that you don't.
Mhm.
So you guys are both, I would say, where you're at. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You need to be 190 plus heading into the next camp season.
Yep.
At 6'4", you don't want to be the guy at 6'4", 175. You got to be
Yeah.
the guy at 6'4", trending 195, 200, because that's what those guys look like at the next level, right?
Yeah.
Because then they can project you to like
Mhm.
205, they project you to 220,
Mhm.
and you're right in the range for what they're looking for. So, you're off. So you have a couple years worth of film. You going into this summer, you had how much film going into this past summer?
Barely any.
Right.
Yeah.
So you had a kid that was a senior, Joseph Federer, who's at Kent State, ran the offense extremely well. So the offense ran through him,
Mhm.
ran the ball through the ball. And then, you're the understudy sophomore getting trick plays and a few reps here and there, blowout, but they're not going to let you really throw if you're going in, right? Because you're
Yeah.
beating people. So you finish your sophomore season, right? So basically this time last year. What was your goal, looking into this coming summer? Because, as we start to like break this up into the recruiting cycles, there are phases of time that are more important than others, right? The season's super important because you got to do what? Perform,
Yeah.
right? And you got to put stuff on film and things that they can see, right? And so we're going to talk about highlight films and all that stuff, but you put good quality film out there, and then that phase right after. So as your season, when you guys run, say it ends in December, yours is done. But you enter that phase of like, okay, I have from now, like November, December, to basically the end of May, early June. And that's when it really counts because you're going to be seen by college coaches.
Yeah.
That's an evaluation period. So you guys enter into that environment where you got film, you got really not a lot of film, and you're thinking to yourself like, well, I want to get recruited, right? Because you see other kids in your grade getting offers, correct?
Yeah.
What does that feel like when you see somebody that maybe you've played against or you know of, and maybe you think I'm better than them, and they get an early offer? What do you think?
It's just sort of like, dang, how did that happen? Because like you can play with them. You're up there. It's just there's one thing. And for me, that's always been like, oh, wait, because my skill sets have always been the highlight of my playing abilities.
Mhm.
And so when you play against those players and you're just like, I'm perfectly qualified for that. Why am I not getting it? It's just
Yes.
kind of like putting you down. But like at the same time, it's angering something inside
Should
of
be
you to go,
motivating.
Yeah, motivating. Yeah,
It should
for
be very
sure, for sure.
motivating. But it also should assure you that, like, hey, if they're offering that guy, I'm not that far off. I mean,
Mhm.
eventually.
Yeah.
So then it's like, then you got to think, okay, what did he do differently from an exposure standpoint that I haven't done? Are his coaches doing something different? Are his parents doing something different? Are people that he's training with doing something different? Or what is the connection? Because sometimes there are connections, right? And what I always tell kids too, and you got to remember this in the recruiting process, you don't want to worry about what other people are doing, but you can use it as motivation. But you have to remember, you can only go to one school anyway, right? So that guy that gets 40, 50 offers, he's got a bigger problem on his hand because he's got to tell 49 no and 1 yes. So in looking in that perspective, you guys both go into this summer. You really kind of nervous probably because you see other kids have had offers. You're like, I got to get film. I got to get on the field.
Yeah.
And you know you're going to be a starter as a junior. And you're saying, well, I've put 2 years of good film, and there's schools that have come and they haven't offered me. And they, at MICDS, I know for a fact a lot of schools come in to see you guys, colleges.
Yes.
And then it becomes a really bizarre thing because they come in and sometimes you get called down and sometimes you don't get called down.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's because you're in the wrong class and they know they're not going to bother that teacher. Sometimes it's a oversight, and sometimes maybe they're just looking at line, whatever it might be. But it feels weird because then you have friends that are like, hey, why'd they come see that guy? Like, did they not, the coach not tell them about me? And 9 times out of 10, that has nothing to do with it. It's just the situation and circumstances. But again, it's a mind game that you have to be willing to just say, okay, it's not in my control, right? But you also can have that conversation with your coaches like, hey, if schools are coming in, I certainly would like to talk to them if they're at this level. And really, I mean, my advice is you talk to everybody because you don't know where those guys are going to end up, right?
Yeah.
There might be a guy at SEMO who ends up at Missouri next year or at Iowa. There might be a guy at Missouri Baptist who ends up getting a position at Toledo. I mean, you just don't know. So that's my advice, is never turn anybody away because you don't know who they are. You don't know who they're connected to. That's the other thing. All these guys are friends. You don't know who they're related to. I mean, there's tons of connections to be made. So you guys get into the off season last year. So what did you do? The season ended last year. What did you do to start to prepare for the summertime?
Well, I joined the off-season program first. Yep. And then
so you started lifting.
Yeah, that was like my main priority, which I did put on 10 to 15 pounds.
Yep.
Almost 20 just from that. And then I started training, throwing 4 to 5 times a week. I made that a main priority too.
Yeah.
So I got my arms.
When you're a quarterback, you have to be like constantly throwing, right?
Yeah.
So what did you do? You had your team lifting, right?
Team lifting halfway through first, right after the season, I was just healing my body back, getting my strength back up. And then halfway through is when I really kicked it up, got with the trainer.
Yep.
And just started going.
And
speed and weight.
And then you guys both did a little 7-on-7, right?
Yeah.
You're more lacrosse, right? Because you have another spring sport. Do you have a spring sport?
No, this year.
Yeah. So both of you guys are dual sport guys in the sense that you've done it. You're still doing it. You used to play baseball. You played basketball. But you're now trimming that down. What's your plans with?
Right now, just keeping it football, lacrosse. No plans of stopping it.
So on your lacrosse, do you feel as though it gets a little tough to manage sometimes with the football aspect?
It could be, but with my coach, he's very lenient. He understands that I want to play football, and he's very hard into that. He's like, we're going to get you recruited.
Yep. So you got to play that. So when you have guys that are helping that and are aware of the process, that makes it so much easier, because there are people that are just pretty much like, hey, this is my time. I got you. Like, I want your attention 100% focused on my sport, right? Which you can't fault that coach, but at the same time, like, you have to love the long-term vision of like, hey, this guy's got 2 years left of high school. His dream is to play college football. He can help me in lacrosse. He can help me in basketball, whatever, baseball. But I mean, at the end of the day, he's going to graduate. He can't play here anymore. He's got to play somewhere else. And so, I think that's always a challenge. So, and there, rightfully so, there's a lot of, and there's some football coaches, I'm sure, that feel this way. And there's baseball coaches that sometimes kids use their other sport to play. And I'm sure you guys have teammates that you've seen this. They use an alternate sport as an excuse not to get their work done in their primary sport, if you will, right? So, I got a baseball tournament. I'm gone all summer, and it's like, well, yeah, but you could have been here in the morning, and you could have been here in the afternoon, but you weren't, right? And so your game's tonight, and you missed practice, right? Or we had a lift this morning. So I think that's always a tough thing. But the guys that are dedicated to it, like yourself, Graham, you're working with your coach, and I think that playing that other sport, especially lacrosse, is such a really good crossover. And you played a little lacrosse last year,
last
right?
spring I did, yeah.
Yeah. So you have a sister who's a lacrosse player at where?
Cincinnati.
So she's Division I. She was
Yeah.
leading the nation in scoring at one point last year, right? So
Yeah.
it's legit, right?
Yeah.
So it helps having a family member that's going through that as well. And I think that is something. So your dad played in college.
Yes, it did.
Your sister's All-American,
Yeah.
if you will. So you understand when you're talking to recruiters, that's part of your story, right? They want to know what lineage is. They want to know if people around you have been athletes, and you can sell that. And you don't think that it matters, but it matters. Believe me, there's certain aspects of what they've seen in athletics with different kids over the years. And I will tell you, the apple don't fall from the tree. And so they start to say, hey, oh, she's really good, right?
Yeah.
And then, his dad was played at Mizzou or whatever it might be. Those things, you don't want to hide those facts. You want those to be front and center for these guys. So, and I think that's part of what we're talking about, the building your story of what you communicate to these guys. So you get into the summertime, you've both worked out, you got some combines, there's some 7-on-7, things like that. But the primary focus is being seen by college coaches, which can occur during the springtime. You guys, both schools do spring football, like practices, or if you will.
Sort of, yeah.
You guys do like lifting and some team activities. Yeah. You guys do your lifting and some team activities, right? In Missouri, for those of you not in the area, because we have people that listen outside the area, Missouri does not do a real strong spring football. I think it's 18 or whatever, 20 practices, whatever it is. No pads, just no spring game, none of that stuff. So, but it does coincide with an evaluation period where teams can come and watch it occur on the campus. So, you guys are kind of focused in our area, right? The big camp to go to in the spring is the Lindenwood, right?
Yep.
Lindenwood Mega Camp. So 400 college coaches. There's people from all over the country that come to it. So you're not competing against kids that are just local. You're competing against kids from California, New York, everywhere. They're from all over.
Yeah.
So going into it, you guys probably felt like you were prepared because you started as soon as the season ended. Where, and we'll start with you, Graham, first. So what was your experience?
I had a great experience there because, I did all my drills, did all that. I performed extremely well. That's actually when I got my first offer from Miami of Ohio, and it was just a great experience.
So you get your first offer. Obviously, that is like a weight off your shoulders, right? But you expect a lot to come from that, right?
Yes.
Right. All right. So we're going to stop right there. What happened at your experience at the Lindenwood camp?
Well, yeah, my experience was also very well. I came out, just made sure I was confident in all my testing and my throwing. And then that's also where I got my first offer from Miami, Ohio. And then I came back the second day and retested, re-threw, and then I picked up another offer from Kent State.
And I think that second day is a good strategy because you feel more comfortable. You can see more coaches again, right? You guys are both going to do it again this year. So you go in, you're confident. It's going to feel different going in as a senior to be than a junior to be, right?
Yeah.
Had you guys done it before? Did you do it when you were a freshman or sophomore?
I did, yes.
Yeah, I did freshman.
So I think that is, for any parents listening, that is a critical component, right? The first year you can do it as 8th grade going into freshman year, and you need to do it because at that point, you're not going to get offered. No, unless you're like a kid that's too old for your grade or some anomaly that you're like 6'10" or something like that, not much is going to happen, right? But if you're a 6'5", 220-pound kid that can run, then you might get somebody's going to be on you, right? But the reality of it is most freshmen going in, there's not much happening, okay? But you're gaining experience, and I believe me, I've seen my years of being involved in it. I've seen some little bitty guys out there. And you're like, man, he's in high school, but they're just not developed yet, right? And that kid fast forward 4 years or 3 years, and that next summer or 2 could be big. You just don't know, right? But that experience to me is just perfect because it allows you to be seen. There's not so much pressure on you that, like, if you screw up, no one's going to write you off. There's so many kids there. But if you show up prepared and you do what they're supposed to do, and I think the way it sets up is you both test, right? And so the way that it works is, we have apps, we put all the scores in there, right? So the coaches can see that. So, but the way it usually works is they're not necessarily scanning to go, oh, who was the fastest? They're scanning it once they see you throw or you defend somebody or catch a ball. They look at their phone and go, pull it up because they see your number.
Yeah.
Then they look at your height, your weight. Oh, okay, checks out. Okay, oh, there's speed. Boom. They don't care that if you're the fastest guy there. They care that you meet the parameters in which the people on their team that have had success have met, right? And so I think, there's a tale of this because you got to prepare physically to run. You got to prepare physically to be in shape, right? And then you have to be prepared and be confident in your skill sets. So when you do the one-on-ones, that you can shine, whether that's an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, or receiver, quarterback, DB. You have to be able to shine. And then so how that works is you prepare. You don't wait to do it. How many kids do you think just showed up at that camp and had not done much?
A lot.
I would say more than 50%.
I would agree. It is. And so, one, don't sign up and go. Now, the only kids that I would say that's okay for are the 8th graders going to be freshmen because they're not part of a school program yet. They don't have a lot, but it's pretty sad. There's a lot of kids that will end their season in November, December, and then play their other sports, maybe lift a little bit at school, and then think they're going to show up and be ready to go. And it's like those coaches are not interested. So, so you guys both get offers, right? So exciting, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so it's kind of surreal, right? Because you're like, hey, wait, like now you're that guy. Now someone else is going, well, I caught a ball against Graham and he's got an offer. Got another guy going, well, I played West. He didn't even play quarterback last year, right? I started as a sophomore. What people don't understand is coaches don't care about a lot of that ancillary, like little stuff like, well, how many balls did you throw as a sophomore? They don't care because they want to look at here and now. Oh, you're 6'3" and you're throwing the ball, or 6'2" at the time, whatever you were, and you're ripping the ball, and you're over there tomahawking kids and covering people and then jumping in line and catching balls. Like that's what they want, right?
Yeah.
You have to look the part, right? You have to be able to play the part, and then you have to be able to close the deal, and they communicated. So how were the offers? How did it work? Like what? Because for people I'll set the stage. Like there's 130 kids on the field at any given time, and there's probably 300 to 400 college coaches in the periphery or on the field, and then support staff like us on the field. How does the offer occur?
Well, for me, the guy who offered me, Miami of Ohio came to our school in the springtime / wintertime. They came twice. They said they would have us on our list. They'll be looking at us.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the camp was over, after all the drills were done, he just came up to me, had a long talk with me about what position I would truly want to play, how I would like it up there, and then he just shoots the offer.
Okay. How did it happen for you?
Well, for the Miami, Ohio one, I had no previous contact with them. And then I went through the camp fully, no contact still. And then after the camp, the coach who offered me came up to me and we swapped information. I gave him my Twitter. He asked for my Twitter. I gave him it. And then he said he was going to send some videos that he took of the camp to the quarterback coach and the staff at Miami, Ohio. And then after probably about 30 minutes or so, he called me, or I called him. And then he just, shot the offer. And then Kent State, I had thrown previously with him at Elite. He watched me throw 1 or 2 times. And then the second day, he came up to me after the camp and offered me.
And so the way that works is there's guys that are at the camp, and then there's decisions. So those guys are figuring out who's who, and they're like, hey, I found a guy. Then they take your video or they take whatever, because they're filming you. And then they walk over and go, hey, that kid that I met, I told you about that's on our board already that you didn't even know about, right? I just saw him. Oh, here's video of him. Bam. That's the off, because there's a decision maker that's going to say yes or no. To me, to be honest with you, the fact that both of Miami offer, both of you guys, my experience with that program is they are front runners. They will figure out who people are. They are very good at evaluating talent. So it's not like, so people are like, oh, they offered a bunch of people. No. In the grand scheme of things, they offered a small group of people relative to how many were there. There's 2,500 kids there. They probably threw out 35 offers out of 2,500 people. Mark my words, all the kids they offer will be guys that have offers at that level or bigger. That's just the way it works. So they do a really good job. And Coach Martin there is a really good guy. We've had a ton of success with kids going there. Brett Gabbert being the quarterback there now. In his last year, he's had some injury issues, but he's doing really well. The great school. I mean, you guys are both. You'd be lucky to go there. They'd be lucky to have you, in my opinion. So, but so the offers come. So then it's kind of a surreal deal, because you're like, oh well, hey, I'm going to go to other camps this summer, and you kind of like, hey, I'm going to go get more offers at other camps, right? Because you're kind of thinking that's the way it works. How does it work? Do you go to other camps? So what other camps did you go to?
I went to North Carolina, NC State, Iowa. And those were like the main that I went to. I also went to Memphis, but
Which that was a mega camp too.
No,
was that
wasn't
okay, regular
That
camp?
was strictly in Memphis.
Okay.
But no offers from any of them.
Now, okay, hold that.
I hadn't gone to any other college camps other than I went up to Miami, Ohio, and I threw. I talked with the quarterback coach there a while. He really liked me, and then I talked to Coach Martin too a while, and then I really just started to lock in on with my football team since we're very young.
Yep.
So
yep.
Just worked with them.
Okay, so you go to some of the big dogs, the North Carolinas, the NC State. They're going to recruit a little differently because their offers are the same type of offers Miami does, but they're going to shake it out a little bit differently, right? So if they go pulling the trigger on a kid at North Carolina and they offer, they're usually trying to say, hey, they don't want to tip their hand usually, right? Like Miami of Ohio is going to be, hey, we're going to offer who we're going to offer. Say for instance, you're not on the big board of like a bunch of schools, but they figure out who you are and they like you. They will stick you, stick it in the back of their head and like kind of keep you out of sight. Well, they can do that pretty easily, right? Because if you're not getting offers at other big schools, what ruins that program for those guys is say Iowa offers. Well, now they have a like foe that they have to compete with, right? Yep. And so that is a problem. That is a strategy where a lot of them will hide guys. Like there's a kid, Robbie Preckle. I will tell you, he's committed to go to Northwestern. I 100% know there was a couple schools that I think through conversations were trying to hide him, right? They figured out who he was. He wasn't high on a ton of people's like a bunch of big offers, and they were trying to slow play him and hide him, right? And so the tough thing at that is once Northwestern offers, that screws those other schools that were waiting because it's like, well, wait a second, but they had every opportunity to offer him, right? And so, but what'll happen with Robbie is because he hasn't committed, I mean, he's committed but not signed. He's putting up great numbers this year. Somebody will sneak in at the tail end, and I've seen this happen a ton of times. And it's a bigger school that's like maybe a better in the same conference, and then they're like, hey, well, we have this amount of money, and we can do this. But you look at like from Robbie's perspective. They recruited him. They believed in him. They pulled the trigger. So you look at it, you go, well, who do I want to really play for? The person that lost out on 3 guys and now they want me, but the name's better. So you got to fight your pride because your pride's going to say, man. So a quick story of Brett Gabbert. He's committed to Miami. And at the time, fellas, he was like, I mean, he's the best quarterback. He's top 5 quarterbacks to ever come out of St. Louis. He's that good.
Yeah. His
career, like, completion percentage is like 70-something percent, 75%. I mean, crazy. Couple of state titles, all that stuff. He was not as highly recruited. I mean, he's got a brother that played in the NFL for 12 years. for whatever reason. So he's like 6 foot. And so he's not, and this is pre, accepting the fact that like Dylan Gabriel's 5'9". I mean, you saw him this summer. I mean, Dylan Gabriel, Jackson Dart might be 5'11",
Yeah.
maybe, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, who else? There's some other quarterbacks that were not super tall. I mean, there's some that were good size. Arch Manning's really big.
Yeah, he's big. Yeah.
He's big. But yeah, like, I mean, guys that you would assume are really tall and big, like they're just not, right?
Yeah.
But Brett kind of fell victim to, well, he's 6 foot. I had numerous guys tell me, oh, he's the best quarterback I've seen in the country. Last minute, University of Miami shows up. Okay. Well, this is pre-NIL. So they show up. It's Mark Richt and his son. They're like he used to be the head coach at long time at Georgia, big time, coach at Georgia. They want him bad, right? And they're but he stuck with his guns and goes to Miami of Ohio because guess what? This is right before they just start sniffing around.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what happens 2 weeks later after signing day? They fire him. So you gotta be you gotta trust people around you. And he has a good, he's got good people around him. Obviously, he's got family that's been involved in it and understands it. But stuff like that can happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So University of Miami, for your ego, it's pretty cool, right? But how many quarterbacks has Miami gone through in the same time that Brett's been the man at Miami of Ohio? Quite a lot,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they got transfers all the time. So you in the recruiting game, my advice for both you guys is, you got to find the best fit for you. Things are going to be changing in the next year. You guys are really kind of hitting it in a really strange spot because, you look at the FBS guys and how it's going to play out. I mean, there's guys opting in. They're going to be sharing money with the athletes. And so there's a legitimate opportunity to make more money, right? There's a legitimate opportunity to get paid to do it through NIL as well as a salary from the school or whatever they're going to call it. But there's also the cutthroatness of what you're getting into. And I think that the more money that comes in, you have to realize like it is a business, which is unfair to guys like yourself that are 18-year-old boys just playing a game you love. But you also have to be trustworthy around people. You guys have people in your corner that are going to help you, but there's a lot of scam artists out there and there's a lot of things going on that we're already starting to see pop up. I mean, 7-on-7, people lying about what they can get kids and this tournament's going to do this. I mean, first off, you guys have both done 7-on-7. You know what it's about. It's about getting reps, right?
Yeah.
And if anybody that tells you it's about recruiting, they're lying through their teeth. It's fun.
Yeah.
To me, personally, I think the best opportunity is to practice with some of the best kids in your area on a local field with coaches there to help move it along, right?
Yeah.
That to me, that's where you make your headway in 7-on-7. But a lot of those guys are now tied to NIL deals, and they're helping kids get found. I mean, things like that. And so there's people taking money. I heard recently, there's people making 7 to 10% of people NIL deals of high school kids. Well, the problem is like in the NFL, it's 2.5%. Right. So just thinking math, like you guys don't deal in this stuff a lot, like with money, like a lot other than what your parents are giving you or what you're making in a job. But, you lose 10% of what you earned. Right. And you have or 2.5%. The NFL has a negotiated rate because they know what that negotiation's really worth, what the market will bear. So they put a limit on it. There's no limit with NIL and people representing people. So, it's a kind of a scary world because you guys, you get the right thing, you do the right post, you're in the right school, you make the right big play, whatever it is, you fall into the right situation. You're now sitting in that scenario. So the other nice thing is, and I don't know how it's going to completely play out, but there's going to be a roster expansion. But what's going to be dangerous about roster expansion from going from 85 scholarships to 120, it's going to eliminate walk-ons. But that's going to bring a lot more numbers to a team, right? And so now, whereas you were fighting 4 quarterbacks, now there's 6 quarterbacks because they have all this extra room, right? Where you're fighting 8 safeties, right? I mean, those are the things. So then that's where you got to boil down, like, what is important to me? What's important to my family? What do I hope to get out of this, right? Because I can tell you this, at the end of the day, if your ultimate goal is to play in the NFL, all that other stuff matters nothing, right? If you're going to play, compete, and do all the best thing you can do on the field, it's going to work itself out. It's not going to be because you signed an NIL deal, right?
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with it, right? You could also ruin your NFL deal by making bad choices with the money that they give you. So I had a guy tell me a couple weeks ago, remain nameless school. I'll tell you the position, but he was talking about 2 receivers he plays with that are freshmen, and they're making $30,000 a month. So the adults listening, like $30,000 gross pay. I mean, you're doing all right for that to happen, right? There's not a ton of jobs that put you in the top, probably 1 or 2% of earners, right? That's a lot of money. And they're 18, and they're spending it on things that 18-year-olds would spend it on: cars, chains, girls, But boys, you only win the lottery one time.
Yeah.
Okay. That coming out of high school, if you are fortunate enough to make anywhere near that amount of money, if you save it and you invest it the right way, it will put you so far ahead of other kids in your age category that's not even funny. But those guys, it's easy come, easy go, right? And I said, they work hard. He's like, no, they're divas. They don't work hard at all. So they may be getting paid today, but that money's in and out, gone, and then they're going to be chasing it the rest of their life going, well, it's conceivable they could get out and work for a whole year and earn $30,000. I mean, there's people that work hard, that's what they earn, right? And so you guys are in that point where you got to understand, like, you have a tremendous opportunity ahead of you, right? And the whole reason you're not doing it is to play for money. I mean, but if they're going to pay you, you're going to accept it, right? I mean, but you also got to, if that's the game that you're in, you want to maximize your ability to do that. So how do you do that? Twitter, you got to control what you put on there. You got to control what you're retweeting. You got to control what you like. You got to control all of how you say things, because you are marketable in your own right? And you're your own brand. And so we were always our own brand with our name on our back, but now it is really worth something because people are willing to pay for it. So, okay, so you guys go into the summer, get offers. Summer ends. Any more offers?
No offer.
No.
Okay. So now season starts, right? You've done all your stuff you're supposed to do with your team. Your season starts. What's everybody tell you? They want to see your first 3 game films, right?
Yeah.
So now you're thinking, I played good in my first 3 games. I'm going to put my highlight in my huddle up, which everybody does. And then what happens?
No offers.
No offers.
No offers. Right. So that is just how it works. Okay. And I would say more than ever, it's a little more quiet right now. And you'll notice so how many kids in our area, other than 1 or 2 young outliers, are you seeing getting offered that are juniors and seniors in season?
Not that many.
Not many.
Oh.
The reason being is the coaches are really concentrating on how they get paid, and that's winning football games and trying to minimize the bleeding if they're in a program that's losing, so they don't lose their job.
Yeah.
Right. So there's an ebb and flow. So there's a document. I'm going to have Joe put this up in a second, but it's a document. It's just basically the NCAA Division I FBS timeline, and it shows you when it's a quiet period, right? And so if you look at like where we are today, if you look at the dates and times, so we're sitting at between September 1st and December 1st, right where we are at. That is called an evaluation period. Evaluation period is a period of time that is permissible for authorized athletic department staff members to be involved in off-campus activities designed to assess academic qualifications and playing ability. No in-person off-campus recruiting contact shall be made with prospective student athletes during the evaluation period. Okay? What does this mean? It means they can come to games. They can bump into you, but they have games themselves. So are they going to go out of their way? And no, they're not. Like Coach Drinkowitz at Mizzou flies in one weekend, usually if it works in their schedule, makes a big splash for 1 or 2 kids. They're not watching the recruit. It's more for a show to show support for that player that's probably already committed to go to their school. So what has your communication been with college coaches? How do you communicate with those guys right now?
Through Twitter, mainly.
Through Twitter.
I do through text and Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah.
How often?
For me, it's every week.
Yeah, weekly.
And what different schools, same school?
The same schools, the camps I went to, like Iowa, Miami, NC State, mainly those.
Okay. So are you reaching out beyond any of those? Are you sending messages to other schools with your highlight films?
I
Yeah.
still am, yes.
Yeah, I am too.
Send it far and wide.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to get it out there, because if you don't, someone else is getting it out there, right?
Mhm.
And we make the mistake locally of like thinking your competition is some kid that plays at Warrenton or some kid that plays at CBC or wherever. That's not your competition, right? If that kid doesn't have an offer, or he's a year older, like he's not your competition. He maybe, if you go to college, he might be your competition at the same school, but your competition's in Louisiana, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, Connecticut, places like you don't know anything
Mhm.
about, right?
Mhm.
And you would have no idea who these guys are. So the colleges have to then go and evaluate and weight like what this guy's schedule looks like or what this guy's performance looks like versus yours, or as a whole. So you guys like are not really, you just got to control what you can control and not worry about the local. It's nice to be leading an area in a category,
Mhm.
but stats only tell part of the story. They want to know, can you make the throw moving to your right? Can you make it to your left?
Mhm.
Do you make good decisions? They want to know for you, how well do you break on the ball? Are you willing to come down and hammer somebody? Like those are things they want to know, right? Are you doing the things that the players that they've recruited in the past do, right? And I think that's, to me, why the highlight films are important, but it's also why you shouldn't put too much stock into like thinking like you throw it out there magically everybody's going to love it. People are watching it, just so you know. It's made its way into numerous. So if you're sending your direct messaging, recruiting coordinators, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, at some point that film gets filtered to a GA or a quality control person or an analyst. They're going to watch it. Recruiting personnel, they're going to watch it. If they check off on it, it makes it to whoever, right? I would put in, when you guys are sending your message, all your pertinent information, and then put where you have offers from, right? And just say, hey, I've already got. You don't have to say where from. I've already gotten my first couple, round up, whatever,
Mhm.
FBS offers. I'm excited. I'd love for you guys to evaluate me as well and let me know what you think, right? Are they going to call you? Can they call you? Have they called you?
Yeah, they have before.
Yeah. So there's periods of times when they're
Mhm.
allowed to call, and then there's
Mhm.
other times. So if you're calling them and they don't call you back, it's because they can't call you back. If you're getting, now say this is your senior, you're getting really hardcore recruited and you have an offer from someone, then it goes silent. You cannot get them to call you back or they're not responding. It's probably a good sign that something's gone wrong,
Yeah.
right? And what you have to understand is you can't take that personal, because you don't know all the parameters going on in that deal. They may have had a kid change positions. They may have had a kid get kicked off the team, and now they got to fill in a couple more guys. There's a myriad of reasons why things change, and 99% of the time, it has nothing to do with the individual player who's affected by it. And the numbers of stories I would have would blow your mind with near offers and pulled offers and all that stuff. So right now you guys both have standing offers with schools. Now the problem is we know there's the term of committable and non-committable, right?
Mhm.
And so, for the people out there listening, committable being, if you said yes today and I want to go there, would they accept it, right? And sometimes they're not even in a position to even know how many quarterbacks or defensive backs, receivers are going to take in the next class, because they're waiting to see who transfers out and who comes in.
Mhm.
So they don't even know. So it's a good thing to know about committable and uncommittable. So, my experience is, say you end up with 10 more offers and you get 10 more offers, right? And say there's one outlier, you get Iowa and you get Boston College, okay?
Mhm.
And the rest of them are more mid-major, not non-Power 5 conference. So ACC being a power 4 or 5, what do you want to call it? And then Iowa. So say you go to them and you're like, hey, is this committable? And chances are those two bigger schools, like say, it's probably not at that point, right? Down now you have 9 offers at, let's say, a power, a group of 5 school. And it's getting down to where they're like, hey, look, we really want this guy. We do not want him going to Ohio University. We don't want him going to Toledo. Yes, we'll accept that offer because now there's leverage at the same level, right? Whereas that guy and that one outlier, it's hard to force someone's hand if it doesn't need to be forced, right?
Yeah.
So if you got an offer from Georgia and Missouri, like this kid that's at Nixa, Jackson Cantwell, the kid we've interviewed him, great guy. He's #1 recruit in your guys' class. Well, he's also like 6'8" and bench press. I think he told us he bench pressed it's like 335 for 10 or some crazy number. And that was when he was a sophomore, right? And so he owns like the national record in the shot put. So he is playing what we call with house money. He has leverage. He keeps wearing the Georgia and the Mizzou, gloves or whatever. So that's like kind of who he's like narrowed it down to. Those are both very committable offers, right? He has the leverage. They're fighting for him. Okay. Most kids that does not happen with. Okay. As a matter of fact, you kind of don't want to be in that position, in my opinion, because people have made some really bad decisions when they get into that deal because they start worrying about things that don't really matter. Okay. And I've seen it locally. I've seen it happen recently where people get enamored with the school and they're not looking where they fit best. Right. One thing that what I would tell you is, and this has gone on for years, this is a great question to ask a guy recruiting you, your position coach. And you say, hey, how many years you coached, quarterbacks or safety or whatever? Oh, yeah, 20 years. Do I remind you of any players you've ever coached before? And you want them to be like, yeah. And you want them to tell you like, oh, yeah, I had a dude in 1999 named whoever, and you remind me of him. Yeah, he was the MAC Player of the Year. Oh, really? Because I'm telling you, the way these guys, a lot of them operate, they're looking for people that remind them of other guys that have attributes that are similar because their mind associates that with them producing what they got the result, right? So just like people that enjoy a certain type of dog, which sounds horrible to make that correlation, but like, hey, I've had good success with golden retrievers, right? They're loyal, they're good, they're predictable. I don't know if I want to change and go get a German Shepherd, right?
Yeah.
He's probably better, more athletic, but is it friendlier? Does it have all the attributes that I want as a quarterback coach or a safety coach? So I think it's a unique question to ask because I'm going to tell you the most successful guys I've seen are getting recruited by people who want to see them succeed. And a lot of times it's through them just kind of being like, they want to see you succeed. And they remind you. I mean, I had a coach in college that he had a guy wearing the same jersey number that he wore because he reminded him of himself. Jeez. So who do you think he wanted to be successful? That guy. I mean, it was very obvious that was going on, right? And who benefited? That guy. Good for him, right? But some of those things as a player, you see it going on, you're like, well, that's out of my control. All I can do is control what I can control. Yeah. But that's a bad situation if you're losing playing time to that guy, right? But it happens. So you guys basically are at a point now. You have offers. You've put in good film this year. You're saying you're hearing stuff. You're communicating, but it's not a ton. Okay, so the next phase is what you said you're going to do. You're going to finish your season strong. You're already starting to work out and get better, what you're going to do when your season ends. Then it's like, hey, winter combines, few winter combines, and then early spring, do a little 7-on-7, do some lacrosse, and then it's back where you were last year at the same time.
Yeah.
But what's going to change for both of you, and this is why I think it's unique to have this conversation, I can tell you with pretty much certainty what's going to happen. So once you start that spring period, so you do the winter combine like the spring, we do the one in the beginning of March for a reason. to show what your new height and weight and your new scores are so they can compare it to what the season is, kind of what they had on you last year, kind of midterm now. And then they're going to see you in a couple months and get going in the summer. But with the spring period, they're going to start to come back into school. Now they're calling you down because they know who you are, and now they want to have a conversation with you, right? You guys probably don't have as many schools coming, but you have some, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot more this year because they're going to want to watch you throw. They're going to watch you move on the field. They can watch you at lacrosse, so they're probably not going to gain a lot from watching you play lacrosse. They'll gain more from watching you play lacrosse because the correlation's not great, but they can watch you move, right? So, but my prediction is it goes from not having much conversation to there'll be guys, one of you guys will get like a fan of, you'll get an offer. They're like, where the hell did that come from, right? So you take Dylan Duff as a great example. This time, so he had Miami of Ohio and maybe someone else coming on it almost identical, okay? First one to offer him. Then all of a sudden, he's got about maybe January, February, he starts getting interest from other schools sniffing around, right? Then all of a sudden, it's K-State. Then it's like big, it piles in, and then Mizzou jumps in, right? If Mizzou jumps in on you, it completely changes the recruiting, right? Because if the SEC home state school pulls the trigger on you, one, that puts a little undue pressure on you to stay where you're at, right, and go there. But what it does is it alerts everybody else, right? And so that's what people get a major complaint, like, hey, Mizzou didn't, was not even messing with me and this and that. Well, here's the problem. If Mizzou offers you, they don't have to, but they pretty much need to accept it. It needs to be committable because they can't go screwing around their own backyard and messing with kids and not pulling offers on people. That's a bad look. So that's why they have to slow play it. That's why they have to do it. They're not doing it because they don't respect people, and they're not doing it because they don't know how to evaluate. They just need to know for sure that you're going to fit, right?
Yeah.
And truthfully, like, they will start to do certain things if they don't want you to commit there. Like, they'll behave a certain way, right? But they're not going to pull the offer from you.
Yeah.
You're going to make a decision because you're going to get a feeling, right? And so should you take that personal? I don't think so, because it's just business, right? And it's tough when you're 18 or 17 to understand what that's all about. But that's why you got to have people in your corner that have been there and can shoot you straight and say, hey, your best opportunity is here, okay? And the other thing is we can talk about is you're playing, right? And you're working towards this ultimate goal of being a college football player. Getting on the field once you get to college is really difficult. Easier said than done, okay? Go to a Mizzou game, go to a North Carolina game, Iowa game, Miami, Ohio game. Look how many cats are standing on the sideline. There's a lot, and there's a lot of dudes that are busting their ass in practice. There's a lot of guys that were told they were the guy. There's a lot of guys getting paid that are sitting on those sidelines that are not playing at all, okay? So that goal of getting to the college is the kiss of death for many guys, because that's actually what their goal was. Your goal should not be going to play college football. You're going to play college football. The goal should be, what am I going to do to prepare myself that year 2 or 3 I'm on the field and I'm contributing and I'm playing. So my advice and my experience tells me, one, you're not naive about where you're going, right? You don't want to be the 4th guy getting recruited in. You want to go where they like you the most and they love you the most. But them recruiting you does not mean they like or love you. It's how they treat you, and it's how they speak to you. And that's why I asked you to ask them, do I remind you of anybody? Because that's a more personal level. That is not just a business decision. Say, oh, yeah, you remind me of this guy, best guy I ever coached. Oh, really? Right? And so those are things that you got to consider and think about as you go through the process. But you also have to consider, if things don't go well, if you get injured, like, where do I want to go to school? What do I want to get my degree in, right? And those are things that you have to be realistic about. And a lot of 18-year-olds don't want to think about that, but there's a whole lot of life after football. And I can promise you this, you're not playing pickup football games when you get older, right? It just ends. It's just one day it ends. And so I watched your game last week, and there's kids that walked off that field that will never play football again. ever again, right? And that's just the truth. And hopefully they got everything out of the game they needed, but football is done with them, and they're done with football. So, we don't know when that's going to be, and it's hard when you're 18 or 17 to even 16 to even think about that.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of it is that everybody retires from football. Tom Brady even eventually retired from football, right? You have to retire from football. And the way that works is either you're told you're done, right? Or you do it on your own, or there's a combination of it. So I would just tell you, as you guys are kind of going down this pathway, be realistic about what it is you want to get from the game of football, right? Don't let it use you up. You got to use the game to your advantage as well, right? And so there's coaches that are going to help you. There's coaches that might not have your best interest in mind at the collegiate level, because there's some guys that are really hungry that are climbing, they'll eat you up, right? Yeah. There's other guys you're playing with that don't really care about you as well, and they'll eat you up as well. So that's why you have to have a solid foundation that whatever the work you've put in is going to carry you through, and you got to have some faith and some drive to you that's going to help you decide when it gets tough how you're going to make it out of it. So, because it will get tough. Mm-hmm. So this summer, obviously for both you guys, because you're kind of coming full circle, you're going to be back at Lindenwood, probably with a few more offers than you had going in. Okay. And so then that helps kind of parlay more offers at Lindenwood, right? Because if you come in and you're prepared equally, if not more, you now have the opportunity to be there. And they're the guys there's multiple coaches talking to. Okay. And so to me, if you're able to do that, that's the deal. And I think you need to come in weighing whatever that target weight is, probably for you, 200, 195, 190, because that's what they want to see yet, right? And if you're starting to trend that way, it's going to make a big difference. But you want the weight to move well. You don't want to just be putting weight on to put on weight, right? You need to move well. So, let me ask you this. Go with both of you guys. You have 1 year of football left. You got a few games left this year. You got 1 year of high school football left. Mm-hmm. How fast has high school football gone?
Flown by.
So
just fast. Like freshman year, middle of the year, you feel like this is way longer than middle school. How is this this is super long. How am I going to make it through? Mm-hmm. And then now it's like, oh, wait, I only have a year left.
Yes.
What happened? And
there's no greater game than high school football. Enjoy every minute of it. So how about you? You were a junior Longhorn for what, 4 years, 5 years?
Something like that, since fourth grade. Yeah. And then as a freshman, whenever seniors tell you it goes by so fast, you never believe it. The season feels like forever, and then you're in the same shoes as them. You're going into your senior season before you even know it.
Yeah. And just statistically, what, 5% get to play?
Yeah.
You get 5.8%. So, hey, Joe, one of these, you could probably roll some of their footage of them playing as well. Probably wouldn't hurt if you got it. So this is some of Graham's stuff. And just so we're talking about huddle film too. Couple things. Best film, you guys are both, as your season, yours is done and yours is, finishing here in the next couple of weeks. Make sure you get your full highlight film out. And now because you guys did it in 3 week, 4 week increments. Is that how yours are? Yours are
yeah, there's I do them every week, just add them in, but I post them in everything.
Okay. So then you need to be pushing for the good one, the final, the finale, put all those best plays up front. And what are best plays? I don't like plays that repeat themselves, meaning a deep throw to the right and then the same throw to the left. Okay, fine. But you shouldn't see that for probably 5 to 6 more plays to show an intermediate, right? For you as a defensive back and a receiver, you want to show, hey, the ability to catch a ball high, something, like a timing, snap your head around, catching a slant, and then showing you come out of a hammer and someone catching a slant, right? Stuff like that where it's changing. I don't like to see plays back to back because they want to see a variety of things. So if you put it in perspective as to hey, I need to see X number of plays that look similar to what these guys run. Okay. So you don't want to show you want to show, like as a quarterback, I want to show an intermediate, a roll to the right, a roll to the left. I want to show you throwing off balance when you got someone coming at you. I want to show you got one setting up. I want to show you, taking a shot, pulling one down, making a good run, getting a first down, whatever it might be. You need to show a variety of plays that they're going to show. And when they show the other guy, when he goes, hey, look at this kid, he doesn't have to wait 5 plays to get through all the deep balls to see you throw a mesh route where you click through and you hit your third read, right? They want to see that stuff. They want to know that you're comprehending. And so those are conversations you can have with them, but you help yourself by showing good quality film. And if you don't have good film, you're kind of dead in the water, right? You go, okay, well, yeah, Brett didn't have a lot of film when he got offered. Well, Brett's also tall and he rips the ball. What I didn't say is the year before, and this is probably pretty interesting, is when you were a freshman going to be a sophomore at Lindenwood, I had the Arkansas coach walk over and go, hey, do you know who that kid is? Right? And I said, oh, yeah, we train him. He said, okay. He's like, we want to have him come down and watch him live. Okay. Even at that point, they didn't say, well, how many yards did he throw for as a freshman? Oh, did his freshman team win? They don't care. They want to know what you can do to help them. And if you possess certain skills that look similar to what they've seen with other guys, chances are you're going to have an opportunity to do that. So, to me, if you're able to be in a, if you're in a situation where you can dictate things and get your name out there, and people require you to be on campus and they're fighting for you money-wise, this is such an easy thing, right? It's a tough decision, but it's an easy deal because they're fighting for you. That doesn't mean it's the right decision. That means you might get screwed down the line. But at the end of the day, I think you need to get in a position where you guys both reach that size parameter that you need to reach. I think you need to get to a point where you both are confident enough to, when you get in front of coaches, you can articulate what you're looking for in a school program. Because if you don't do that and they meet with you and you're just kind of half-ass answers, yes, yeah. I mean, they want to know who else is talking to you. They want to, you don't want to be vague about things like that. You want to kind of think through things they may ask you, right? And what are the things they ask you when they're tweeting and texting with you? What are the conversations like?
Well, the first thing was when Iowa called me, it was just like, it was kind of a shock to me because I've never had like a talk like that before. They're just like, what are you looking for when you go to college? Like what major are you looking for? Now I obviously know what I want, but like still you don't really know if like you really want to make that decision yet.
Right.
So it's like, it's just understanding what you want and preparing yourself with a good foundation.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, they don't even care if you give them a great answer. They want to be a nuclear physicist. Okay. That's going to get their attention. But if you're like, hey, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. I want to do whatever, agriculture, whatever it is. They're wanting to know that you can comprehend and have a conversation, because think about it. They put food on their table by coaching young men that follow directions and buy into the team. Humans enjoy having conversations with other humans that have, like interests, that have can comprehend conversations and can communicate, smoothly. They don't want to sit and put time into people that, unless you're some freak outlier, there's very few guys that they're going to just over the top, this guy just makes bad decisions. This guy can't communicate very well. Like, they're not going to spend money on that. Right. And they don't have to, because they're going to find other guys that can. So I think, one thing I will tell you, like college coaches, I always tell kids, like college coaches, when you reach out to them and you say, or they reach out to you, understand that they do that for a living. That's part of their job, is recruiting, right? And so communicating with guys, they're calling numerous kids on the same night. That's part of what they do, right? They need to communicate with you as to, what they can do for you. But you also, you can, not have to carry the entire conversation, but you need to be able to communicate back to them. Because I think a lot of times they're just looking to make sure that you're checking boxes and you're You're not some guy that's just the stereotypical football player that's just only about football. I mean, there's more to life than just football, right? And so they want to know that they have a guy that's going to show up on time to meetings. They want to know a guy that's got more to life than just playing football. They want a guy that's dedicated to football, but a guy that's just not a, I'm just going to school and I'm just doing this just to pass it by. No, you want to go and those guys are in universities, right? You're getting degrees. And so I think if you guys can articulate your mindset of what you want to do and go through it in your head and think about it, right? Then you really should do that, because if you don't, someone else is going to do it, right? And as a quarterback, you got to articulate what you're thinking. I'm not saying you got to be a CEO, but you can't be a guy that's just no, I mean, you're going to run into someone that's going, oh yeah, this is what we run, this is what we do. Oh yeah, what are you doing this weekend, or what do you want to be? Well, my goal is to be an NFL quarterback. Okay, I'm sure they've heard that a million times, right? But I also want to invest my money and be whatever. I mean, you got to have some sort of, even if you don't end up doing it, you got to have a story to sell them, right? Yeah. I mean, that's sales. You're selling yourself to them. And so I think you can get caught up in the minutia of being like, I don't really know what I want to be, because no one's going to hold you accountable when you're 17. You said you wanted to be an astronaut, Graham. You're not an astronaut. You failed. No, like at the end of the day, what do you want to do may change, but you have to have something to talk to them about. And so I think I was talking to Brett earlier. One of his receivers was brand new to football this year. He's a lacrosse guy and hockey. More importantly, I think he was a hockey guy who plays high level lacrosse, but he gave up high level hockey, which in that world is kind of a big deal, right? Because you spend your entire life doing this. You're spending a lot of money, time traveling, all that. Well, to me, he transitioned and caught 82 balls. Okay. Jeez. First year playing football. So now you said, geez. So let me ask you this. Is that a story that can be told to a college coach who's going to go, well, damn, this guy is really good at hockey. He gave a high-level AAA hockey experience up to play college football. So here's my thing for you guys. What is your story, right? I mean, it might not be quitting hockey for that, but it's oh, my dad played. My sister played. That's part of the story. It's also, you know what? I'm also, I donate time and do things and these things that are beyond just, selfish things I do for myself. I give time to people in the community, whatever it might be. What is your story? What are you going to differentiate yourself? Because there's a lot of dudes that can throw a football. There's a lot of dudes that can tackle people and catch balls. It's thinking broader, right? You're an entity. You are an entity that they want to be a part of, or they don't want to buy. They don't want to buy your stock, right? They want to buy your stock and then hold it and know that you're going to be really good. Or they might buy your stock and then dump you a few days later, right? So, my thought with you guys is you both have really bright futures. I think both you guys obviously are going to be FBS Division I football players because you've gotten offers and you're doing the things necessary to do that. But I think it's more than that. What are you going to do with that opportunity, right? And I think you can get lost in the shuffle of, but I only have this and I can't even commit to it right now. It ain't about that. You're going to, what that outcome is going to be. You're going to get to go somewhere. You have to start behaving like you're going to be able to do that and preparing, because the dudes you're competing with, this is hard to think, they're playing right now college football. You wrapped up high school, you're done. They got another month of college. You got a few weeks of high school. These cats are doing what? They're playing football. They're lifting in Division I weight rooms. They're eating properly, morning, noon, and night. What are you doing? Right? Are you losing ground? You are. You're losing ground against guys you're going to be competing with in 2 years. A year and a half. If you go early, a year and a half. You're competing with guys that have already been there for 3.5 years. Yeah. Okay? That's the thing. That guy that told you, it goes fast. Yeah, now it's going fast for him in college, but you're still going to be there when he's there and you're competing against him.
Yeah.
And he's learned a few things. And I think a lot of kids, to me, lose sight of that. And the kiss of death, I always say, JP and I, when we're talking, the kiss of death is when kids commit, they get offers. The first bad one is they get offers and then they stop training. Dead in the water, right? I mean, it is, I have a lot of stories. I could tell you a lot of stories. The other kiss of death is get the offers, work hard still. Senior season happens, and then it's like I'm gonna cruise until I leave. I'm gonna do the workouts they send me, and whether you go in December, January, or you go in the summer, I'm just gonna cruise. You got no idea what you just did to yourself because you are moving backwards, and that team's moving forward. They're in spring ball. Right? They just came out of a bowl season. Their season doesn't end, right? And now you're competing against them. So I think those are things that you got to just kind of have a forward-looking view about what you're getting yourself into. Both you two can do it. You're not the guys I'm concerned really about because I know you guys are both worker bees.
Yeah.
But I think as you start to look at how it all works out, you just need to really know that you have more control than you probably feel like you have, and the control all resides in yourself and what you're going to do to prepare because you're going to get the opportunity. It's what are you going to do and how prepared are you when it happens. So what are you guys? So we're going to start wrapping it up here. What are the final thoughts you guys have about the process? What do you want to have happen? How about that?
Well, what I want to have happen is get my dream schools I've always wanted to play for, and also get the education that I really want to get because football will end.
Yep.
And I need to be able to have a good backup
if
everything else fails. But also, I mean, I've just learned to just be aggressive. You need to attack everything. Attack is the key because if you're not attacking, someone else is and your spot's taken.
100%. That's on the field and off the field.
Yep.
And guess what? In business, exact same thing.
Yeah.
Every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day. So what do you want to have happen?
Obviously, kind of like he said, I want, my dream offers, go to this great school, get a great education. But, yeah, my dream is to go up to the NFL, but got to go to a solid school to get a good education because,
yeah,
well, like 2% of college players go to the NFL too.
Yeah.
And then probably slimmer.
Yeah, it's a very slim.
And they don't last half the time too.
No, I've been involved with a lot of guys that have gone, and it's tough. But we've been around a fair share that have stuck it out.
Yeah.
And but remember this: it's never what you think it is. College football is probably not what you think it is right now. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you this: it's going to open a lot of doors for you. It's going to give you a lot of opportunity to extend your athletic career. It's going to give you opportunity to make some money if you play it right. And it's going to give you an opportunity to prepare yourself for the rest of your life. It's on your resume. It's one of those things that people look at. It'll help open doors business-wise. It'll help open doors meeting potential, relationships in your life with friends and future, maybe a future wife, stuff like that. It just that's the way it's a really cool opportunity that's ahead of you. So I'm really grateful for you guys coming in. Hopefully it was not real painful, but you guys both did a really good job. I think to me, getting to hear from guys that are in it, right? If we had this conversation last year, both of you have no offers. The 15-year-old version of yourself, if I said, hey, next year, this time you have an offer, how do you feel about that? What would you have said?
I would have been like, it's almost like sort of unbelievable. Just
because
I wouldn't have always wished as a kid.
Right. So now, how old are you guys now? 16?
16.
All right. We're going to have this conversation next year when you're 17. One prediction. What do you think that conversation is going to be? You have offers. Will you be committed, sign, seal, and deliver? Or do you think you might be making choice still? What do you think?
I think at this point, it's definitely, I think it's a 50-50 of the choice.
Having a choice?
Mm-hmm. I think it's the choice.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the goal after senior year would be to be committed somewhere. Just, really solidify, confidently going in. But I mean, it's not bad to always have choices too.
I know. All right. Well, hey, we're rooting for you guys. I wish JP could have been here. Appreciate your time. So where can people find you on social media?
People can search up Graham_Faust on Twitter. That has all my sports highlights, everything.
Yep.
And Brett O 2026 on Twitter. That has my huddle link and everything, all my information.
Perfect. So, hey, then what you need to do is we'll put this out. You can retweet it. You guys are on there.
Yeah.
You're showing yourself that you can communicate. You can hold a conversation. You guys did a great job. So I know your parents are happy for you. I'm proud of you. Again, Joe, you can start to roll the end and the outro. You can find us on football360show.com. You can find me at Elite Football Academy on Instagram and Elite Football on Twitter. And then JP is JP, what is it? JP Scout You.
JP Scout You.
Yeah, JP Scout You.
On X, JP Rock Mo.
And then JP Rock Mo on X. So we'll be back next Tuesday. Again, thanks for joining us on a late edition. And have a great week. And good best of luck to all the teams playing this weekend.